CrossFit is the most dangerous sport in the world. And it's not dangerous in the way that you think it is. It is dangerous in the fact that I show up and I have 20 people who are showing up for me every day. Do you have 20 people that show up for you every day? I highly doubt it. But I love talking about what CrossFit has done for me and how it has totally changed my life. It's not just a workout, it's a community, it's family, it's learning all these new things about yourself. All it takes is seeing the change that it makes in one person's life to realize that everyone in the world could benefit from it.
If there was one thing the world was asking for, it was for one more podcast about CrossFit. Well, here we are anyways. This is the Silverback Media Podcast, where we share the stories of the everyday CrossFitter so that more people are encouraged and empowered to try it themselves. Here's your host and everyday CrossFitter, Marco Mejia.
What is happening, Silverback Media crew? Welcome back to the Silverback Media Podcast, the podcast for you, the everyday CrossFitter. My name is Marco Mejia. I am your host here on the show. I'm a CrossFit Level 2 trainer in Phoenix, Arizona, and my guest for you this week is Shaylee Williams. Now, if you don't recognize that name, you may know her by her Instagram handle, which is the Unfiltered Fit Mom. Shaylee trains out of CrossFit Zion in Utah, and in this episode, we talk through how she found CrossFit, how it's carried her through some tough times and difficult seasons of her life, and then how that turned into content creation and the following that she's built on the Unfiltered Fit Mom page, with some stories that honestly you're not going to believe. So you're just going to have to stick around and listen to the different stories and opportunities that she's been presented with and been able to find herself in as a result of her content creation. After all that, we wrap up with a discussion about what she's building now with the Unfiltered Clothing Company. And she shares her message that she wants to put out into the world, whether it's to her followers, any customers, anybody that comes in contact with any of the content that she creates or what she's building with her clothing brand. It's a message that you won't want to miss. I was fired up listening to it. I was ready to run through a brick wall. So stick around to the end to hear what Shaylee has to say and the message that she wants to spread. Now, before we get to that conversation with Shaylee, whatever platform you're listening on, whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or if you're watching me here on the YouTubes, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you follow. Better yet, do it on all three. Do it for the robots. You know they're watching. And with that being said, that's 27 down, 10,000 to go. And let's go talk to Shaylee. Okay, Shaylee, thank you. Also known as whichever one, the Unfiltered Fit Mom. So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, anytime. I'm so excited.
So I wanted to start off kind of actually with a content question because I came across you on Instagram, right? I think the reel that I first saw was one recently that was like, some friends ask you to go out to drinks. Real friends ask you to sign up for a CrossFit competition.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that one.
I think between that one and then the next one was like the one that you collabed with the CrossFit, the main page, which are hilarious. And so I guess my first question from a content perspective is, how do you, like when you're sitting down, you have an idea, you film it, you're editing it. How do you know when it's done? Like, what's the sign for you that you're like, okay, this is ready to go?
Oh man, that's really hard. Because I actually try and not to put too much thought into it unless it's something that is like really important. So the one I did for CrossFit, that one, I was very meticulous. I had to have all of the transitions exactly how I wanted it. That one was a very well thought out piece. The other ones, though, I try and keep them simple because one, I don't make a ton of money making content. It's not something that is like keeping the lights on at home. And so and it's so interesting because when people are looking through social media, you have them for the duration of them watching your content and then it's gone. And so between that and all of the kids and things at home, like sometimes I have to just like send it out and let it go and be fine that it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to. Because if I waste too much time on one piece of content, then I don't have time. It flows into the time for the next one. And so it's a lot of give and take. And so that's an open-ended question, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably do a whole episode just on that. No, but I feel like that that answer that makes a ton of sense. It was actually I was listening to an interview recently. I'm big on like, house music, EDM type of stuff, and I was listening to an
Yes.
interview with a DJ that I follow a lot, and he just released a new album, and he said I think somebody asked him like, how do you know when a song is done? And he was like, I don't think they're ever done. I just choose to stop working on them.
Yes.
At some point it's got to go.
Yes. That really held me up in the beginning. And I realized how much time that I was taking to create content, and some of it wouldn't even do that well. And so I had to have that hard conversation with myself of like, okay, you get this much time and then you're moving on to the next, because just like on social media, like nobody's waiting around for you to create the perfect thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Do you feel like you always had that perspective towards it? Like even as you were, whether your following was building up, did you always kind of take that approach to it, or did it get to a point as things were like kind of blowing up for you that you're like, all right, I gotta put some time boundaries on it?
No, it was always like that. Even in the beginning, especially in the beginning, I feel like, because you don't have the experience of making that content yet. And
Mm,
so that was when it was the absolute hardest of trying to grow my platform. I'll start off by saying the very first year I was creating content, I had 1,000 followers my first year. That was it.
okay.
And then the following 6 months after that, I had hit, I think, 15,000 the
Oh
next.
wow.
So it was a whole year of just creating content because I loved it and enjoyed it. And that first year was all of that learning of like, I have 900 people that are following me, like I can't be taking 2 hours to make this piece of content perfect for 900 people, but I still have that feeling at 50,000 people. I'm like, I
Mm.
don't have 3 hours to make this exactly how I want to. I have to just make it with what I have. It's me, and move on to the next thing.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I want to put a pin in that because I want to get to your just CrossFit story in general, which
Okay.
is going to lead back to that. So we'll get back there. But
Cool.
it was like for my own sake, I wanted to ask a couple of those content questions on the front
Sweet.
end.
Yeah, I love it.
So let's wind back the clock, right? To a young Shaylee, right? Like what were you getting into as a kid athletically? Did you grow up playing sports? Were you just like causing trouble around the neighborhood? Like what were you getting into?
Yes. So I did lots of different sports, but the main ones that I did was high school rodeo, and I competed in
I'm
high
sorry, did you
school
say
rodeo.
rodeo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought I heard it, but I'm like, hold on.
Yeah. And that was super fun. And then, the market kind of crashed, and high school rodeo, shocking, is expensive. And my parents were like, "Ooh, we can't do this anymore." And so then I didn't really have much to go out, and so then I wrestled after that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So, and that took you through basically high school at that point.
Yep. Yep.
How did you pick wrestling?
That's a funny question. I went to the very first wrestling match and watched the varsity wrestle. And they didn't have a 106 wrestler, like a 106-pound wrestler for their
Yeah.
varsity team. And I seriously just sat there and was like, I think I could do that. And I think I could kick a lot of these kids' ass. So I think I'm going to sign up. so I signed up. And that in itself, I could talk about my wrestling experience for hours too, because I was the first female wrestler at my school. And so there's a lot to dive into there, but man, wrestling definitely shaped who I am, especially today. Wrestling is one of the hardest sports you'll ever do. And so I think a lot of like the grit and the competitiveness that I have really came from that. But yeah, then after that, after high school, I got into bodybuilding, didn't like bodybuilding, and then I found CrossFit, and I've been with CrossFit ever since.
That's awesome. Okay, I have one more wrestling question, and then I'll tell you a funny
Yes.
wrestling story of mine. Um, did
Perfect.
were did you like? I mean, were you getting into fights or something before that? Like,
Nope.
I guess I'm more curious. Like when you watch wrestling and you see they don't have a wrestler in your weight class, there's something in you that says like, okay, I think I can do that, and I think I can whip some ass, right? But it's like, was that based on I don't know? Had you beaten other people
Nope.
up before or something?
Nope. I
You're
had an
just like, I think I can
amazing
do that.
childhood. My parents, 10 out of 10, zero trauma, like really just saw that and was like, I think I could do that. And I went to my parents, and my parents too were like, what are you thinking? You are ridiculous. But yeah, one of the best things I've ever done out of all the experiences of life, like when I look back, that is one that I'm like, I am so glad I did that because so many people were telling me no, like
For
left and
sure.
right didn't want me to do it. And I was just like, I don't know why I want to so bad, but I
Yeah.
need to. And I was very proud of the fact that like I was one of the ones that didn't cry and didn't throw up. So I was like, I feel like I'm pretty high on like on the ladder when it comes to that.
I will say that probably can apply to a lot of CrossFit classes. It's like, hey, if you're the person that doesn't cry and doesn't throw up, like you're doing a great job.
Yep, congratulations, immediately up here.
Okay, that is freaking cool. And I feel like there's I'm we'll hear it as your story kind of unwraps as we talk about it.
Yeah.
That approach and just that belief of like nobody's doing that, but I think I can do it. I'm sure that plays into so many other things that you've gotten into over the course of
Oh
whether it's
yeah.
CrossFit or anything else, right? So
Yep.
I'm curious to see how that kind of character quality shows up throughout the rest of your story. So, okay,
Sweet.
so that takes you through high school. Then you get into some bodybuilding training. Did you immediately kind of think about the competitive side of bodybuilding, or was it more just like, hey, I'm just gonna, do that from a working out exercise perspective?
It started as like I knew like health and fitness was something that I wanted to go into as a career path. Because initially I wanted to go into being a nutrition and then a nutritionist, but then like college was just like not in the cards for me financially.
Mm.
And so then I was like, okay, what's like the next best thing that's not that expensive? And it was personal training. And so I got my personal training certification. I was working at a gym. And so then kind of naturally it was like, okay, well, if I want as much credibility as possible, I should be competing in bodybuilding as sort of like a way to build my portfolio in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, but then I didn't love it. And then when I sat back and like really thought about it, I loved personal training clients that really wanted to work hard, but
Mm.
that was 1 out of 10 that was actually like that. The other 9 people blamed me for their lack of results when I don't have the ability to feed you at home. I'm not going to sit there and force you to do these things and so that just like rubbed me in all the wrong ways. And so when I found CrossFit and found that it was so drastically different and it was everything that I ever wanted in training, I literally quit like that day and was like, I'm done. See you later. I'm doing CrossFit now. Peace out.
Deuces, I'm out of here. So
Yep.
when was the first time you heard about CrossFit? Was it while you were doing personal training?
Yes, I was personal training and bodybuilding and I really was just like unhappy. I was
Mm.
like I show up to the gym every day. It's all of these people and I'm going to talk shit for a minute. But it was like a keeping up with the Joneses type of vibe. And
Mm.
I'd show up for work and all of my client like the energy of that was just kind of all the same. And so I was looking for something different and I was like, maybe I just need to try a different gym. But my town is so small that there's really only 2 of the Globo gyms that you can go to. And so then I kind of started branching out a little bit and was like, okay, what is this CrossFit thing? And I kind of knew a little bit about it, but I was the typical gym douche that was like, oh, butterfly pull-ups, bleh, you know?
Not real pull-ups. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna strict pull up every time we do pull ups because I'm a badass. And but yeah, it did not take me long before I was like, this is amazing. And I will be doing butterfly pull ups in the near future.
I'm sure it was probably your first Fran experience where you're like, these strict pull-ups are not going to happen anymore.
It didn't even take Fran. It was like the first week, and I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. This was good. You got me.
So what was that? What was do you remember what your first workout was?
Uh, I had started right before the open. And so I don't necessarily remember like my first workout, but I remember my first open vividly. And
What year?
17,
What year was this?
yeah,
17.
2017.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was, we were doing 17.2, which was like a bunch of dumbbell snatches and box jump overs.
Was
I
that the
think
one that
they,
got repeated in
yeah,
2021?
I
I
think
remember that
so.
one. That was the 10 to 50 with the 15 box.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm showing my nerditude here. My wife will randomly text me and be like, "Hey, we just repeated 23.3." I'm like, "Oh, this workout?" And she's like, "You're ridiculous." So, okay, yeah. So that was your basically, yeah, that was your first. Oh, that's a gross workout.
That was the first time I like really tried hard, like gave it everything I have.
Ooh,
Because I remembered the owner, he kept coming over and like checking on me during the workout. But then when it was over, I collapsed on the ground and was
yeah.
like, eyes were closed. And he was like, "Are you okay? And do I need to call someone?" Because he didn't know me well enough at that time that it was literally like, "I tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. So are you okay?"
It's like I
But yeah.
warned you. This is one of those like I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so.
But also, do we need an ambulance? Because you look awful.
So, what was it about those early experiences? Like, do you remember there being a moment or a workout or a movement you saw someone do where you were like, "Oh, I get what's going on here." Like all the gym douchiness that I had before. Your words, not mine. But all that stuff that I had that I thought about before, um, like that was prep, right? Like there's something
Yeah.
else going on here that's really bigger than what I thought.
Yeah, and it really I didn't even need to take a class to realize that. It was I came in and was like, "Hey, I'd like to tour the gym or whatever," and they were like, "Okay." So they take me inside and they were doing a workout that had clean and jerks.
Okay.
And I walk in and you just see the rows and it was predominantly women in there. Sorry, men. I don't know where you were at, but you were not there. So there's all these rows of women. And I remember it was Coach D, and she was clean and jerking. Like, I don't even remember the weight, but you can visually see it when there, are 45s and a bunch of plates on a barbell. You're like, holy shit, man, you women in here are like strong as hell. And there's all the different varieties, like none of them looked the same. They were all different, and yet they were all like strong, inspiring women. And I remember going in there and seeing that and being like, I cannot wait to join the club. Like, let me in immediately. I want to be your friend. Show me what you're doing because this is cool.
That had to be such a radically different experience than the personal training side, the gym
Oh
that you
yeah.
were in before. Like,
Oh yeah. No, because the the standard gym experience is all about how you look.
mm,
And it doesn't matter like how strong you are and mobility. What is that? Like
yeah,
nobody
right.
works on that there. It's just about how you look and what you're doing. And so when you walk into a gym and you see all of these women like just being strong as hell, and
Mm,
you're just like, that is something that I need more of in my life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was there? This is. Let's see if I can tie this into your wrestling experience because, like, you mentioned getting into wrestling. You saw it's like, okay, it's all guys on the team, but there's an opening. I think I can do this. But then you walk into this CrossFit gym. You had your preconceptions about it beforehand, and you see all women, and they're throwing weights around, but they're all like, are doing it in their own
Yeah.
way, right? And like,
Yeah.
how much of a I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this question, but like, how much more welcoming did that experience look when you first saw it? And you're like, I need to be a part of this.
Yeah. And that's where like the community dynamic of CrossFit comes in is because almost like regardless of like my wrestling experience taught me that like there is almost nothing that I couldn't do. That's what wrestling taught me. Wrestling was like that was the hardest thing physically you'll ever experience in your life. So
Yeah.
when that was over, I was like, bring it on. Like there is nothing harder than that. Like let's do it. But the community part of CrossFit is is what you're talking about. Like when you go in and you see all of that and you see these people like working together. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. When you talk about CrossFit being the most dangerous sport in the world, and it's like, I fought that for so many years, and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. But now I'm like, CrossFit is the most dangerous sport in the world. And it's not dangerous in the way that you think it is. It is
Yeah.
dangerous in the fact that, like, I show up and I have 20 people who are showing up for me every day. Do you have
Mm.
20 people that show up for you every day? I highly doubt it. I have all of these people that I could go and pitch an idea to and get immediate feedback all
Mm.
within an hour. I could have so much information at my fingertips. And so it's like that alone, like you don't quite get the full scope of that, but you get a little taste when you walk in the door.
Oh my
And
gosh,
that
yeah.
was what like keeps you around.
Oh my goodness. Did you have like, and maybe it was that first, but did you have a specific experience for you that you realized where that sunk in for you? And maybe it was that clean and jerk class that you were just kind of watching or observing, or but was there one where like maybe the community showed up for you, or a coach reached out to you or said something specific that you were like, "Whoa, I've
Oh
never had
yeah.
that happen before."
Yeah, but it wasn't until I was a little bit further in. Because with my bodybuilding background, and I genetically, like, being strong is my strongest like attribute. Never been good at cardio ever. But naturally, I was really good at lifting heavy. And so during the first few months of CrossFit, the owner of the gym, his name is Chad, and I actually have a reel talking about this specific experience, but he would come to me often and be like, you should compete in Olympic lifting. You would do amazing in Olympic lifting. Like, if you would just kind of take the time to dig into it a little bit deeper, you should do it. And at the time, I was a single mom and couldn't really afford much of anything. And he was like, first, get these shoes. Start off with buying these lifting shoes. And I was like, dude, we're eating mac and cheese for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I am not like shoes are not in the picture.
Yeah.
And so then fast forward, I did a competition, a little local one, and Chad, the owner of the gym, also did the Olympic lifting competition. And first place for the Olympic lifting competition was a pair of lifters.
Oh,
And instead of getting them in his size, he got them in mine and gave them to me.
oh,
Yeah, and it was in that moment that I like had that realization of like there is so much more to me that I don't even see that others do see. And
mm,
I had no idea. And that was such a defining moment for me in the beginning when I was like, this is what community is all about. Like seeing in others what they don't see in themselves and helping them get there to the point that they do. And from the other side of it, I've also had that coaching experience of like seeing something in someone else and being so excited to cheer them on and push them through because they have more to give, but they don't know that and they're too scared to make that leap unless they have someone in their corner like 100%. And so, yeah, for me that was that moment of like this place is special.
that's amazing. I feel like
Yeah.
okay, I have like two observations and then I'll lead into a question. I'm going to keep the observations really quick so we can get to the question.
Cool.
It's not just me talking.
Yes.
Um, one, shout out to chat.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's,
Way
I
to go,
mean,
Chad.
way to go, chat. That is freaking awesome. Two, and this is, kind of piggybacking on, and you kind of started, and it's like, it's so well put of like CrossFit is dangerous because of like, where else are you going to have all these people with you? And it's
Yeah.
been a common theme on like some of the recent episodes and interviews that I've had where we're almost talking about like the potential. Do you know like the third place theory, like that whole thing where it's like
No.
people have like, so it's this kind of like almost like a social thing where it's like, okay, you have two main places that you're typically at, right? One is home, the other one is work. For a lot of people these days, that's the same place. I'm kind of in that boat, but whatever. The
Okay.
point still stands.
Okay.
And then the theory is that like people need a third place that they could go to where they get more of that social connection, right? That's not always like work or being at home, right?
Yeah.
And for a long time, that was church for people, right? And for a lot of people, it still is, right? So I'm
Okay.
not,
Yeah.
but like these days, it's kind of dwindling. And so we've been talking about like, is there room for CrossFit affiliates to be that third place for a lot of people? And I think like exactly that experience, like you were just saying, like how often can people go to a place where you walk in, people smile at you, they know your name, and then when you do
Yeah.
something hard, they're like, good job, right? And they're like, you
Yep.
can do it.
Yep.
It sounds kind of basic and silly when you say it out loud, but if you stop and think about it, like, there's probably a good amount of people that just don't have that. And
Yeah.
along with, like, you're going to get an awesome workout, like, you're going to be healthier and stronger and fitter than you've ever been.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know like, okay, sorry, those are two observations and then question. So you mentioned that that experience and how, Chad was kind of like trying to get you to do Olympic lifting. He gives you the shoes. You mentioned in there that, he kind of tried to lose, like, hey, buy these lifters, whatever. But you were, uh you know living the single mom life, mac and cheese, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How did CrossFit, through that time, how did being in CrossFit help you from, like, a parenting perspective? I can only imagine what that time of life was like for you, trying to just, like, you know keep all the spinning plates in the air, if I had to
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
But you were still found ways and made time to go in to continue doing CrossFit. Like, what was it serving for you in that stretch of time? Hey, quick interruption from me. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, I have a favor to ask of you. The main way that this thing can continue to spread is through word of mouth. So if you're enjoying this episode, send it to someone or share it with someone that may benefit from it or enjoy it as well. Leave a comment, drop a 5-star review, follow the show, share about it on social media. That's the main way that we can help get this message out to others so we can continue to spread this, okay? I'd really appreciate it if you do that. And now let's get back to the show.
Well, and I think I could still say this to today, but like CrossFit is the only reason that like I don't slap people like on a daily basis. So like for, so for me, like especially going like through that time period, I wasn't a single mom for long. That was a very, very like short time frame. But like I could not be the best mom that I could have been to my kids when I
Mm,
didn't have that consistency of going to the gym in my life. Like if I would have let that go, because it would have been really easy. It would have been really easy to say like my life is crazy. I can't make time for this right now. I can't afford it. I should be focusing on other things and getting myself out of this hole. But really, like, that was the only thing that was keeping my mental health in a positive space when everything else was crashing around it, you know? Um, and so, in that aspect, it was like, one, not only was it something that I very much needed to keep my mental health in a good place, but two, it also not so much then because my kids were so little, but now I see my kids watching me work out and I love it when my daughter is like, I want to be strong like mom. Because it's not strong like dad. It is never, I want to be strong like dad. It is, I want to be strong like mom. And then they come out and they see me and they do different things with me. And those little moments of consistency of them seeing that and going, it adds up drastically over time. So there's so many different pieces to that I could talk about, but at that time, for sure it was mental health, like
makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's almost just like getting that stuff out, right? It's like, okay, all the,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I,
All of the
I,
stress, all of the weight that you feel in your shoulders, like needed to be gone. And then that
yeah,
forced interaction with friends that you can't just like turn into a recluse and like go home and hide out and like be miserable. It's like, no, it's forced good conversations with good people
yeah.
and that circle, and staying in it rather than choosing out was so big.
Yeah, I can imagine. And probably, and I mean, you said your kids were little at that time. Would you, like, take them with you?
Hmm.
Yeah, so they're like,
Yep.
they're already growing up in that environment too, right? So
Yeah.
even, and you mentioned it, for them as they grow older, it's like the gym is not going to be a foreign place. They're going to be
Yeah.
comfortable, like, walking into a gym, which, who,
Yeah.
like, you can only imagine how beneficial that is for them down the road. Just not even having to
I'm
learn, like, yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, no, just to preface off of that, I'm really interested to see how that plays out as they get older because I grew up with parents that didn't have I'm going to call it a thing. They didn't have a thing that they went and did.
Mm.
And physical activity wasn't something that wasn't important to them on a daily basis. And so that's what I grew up with. Like my parents, and they did so much for me in like high school rodeo. And I guess you could say that that was their thing, was taking me to these things and kind of supporting me. But I cannot really remember a time that they actually ever did anything for themselves.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so they do now. Like my dad is like a two-time no-gi world jiu-jitsu champion or some shit. But he
Seriously?
didn't, yes, but he didn't find that until he was 50 years old. Like,
Oh
and
my God.
fitness. And my mom didn't get into CrossFit until I kind of forced her. I made her do CrossFit. She tried to do yoga. She was like, CrossFit's too much. I'm going to do yoga. And I was like, Mom, you're not doing yoga. Yoga is not going to help you in your fitness goals. I'm so sorry. You're doing CrossFit, and I'm dragging you there if I have to. And now she loves it and she does it. But yeah, and so I'm interested to see kind of how my kids grow up
Yeah.
and if they'll take that and run with it and continue that on in their lives, or if they won't. I don't know. Because yeah,
You don't, I mean, obviously, it sounds like, right? You don't want to force them into any one thing or another, right? But
yeah,
just like seeing them and having them grow up in that environment, it's like, cool. If you want to do this, like, I can show you some things,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or if you want to do something else, maybe they pick up rodeo or go the wrestling route, right? And
it's
then you're
true.
like, whew, okay, wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the little thing. It's the little things too. Like, and I don't blame my parents for any of that either because they are only doing what they know. And it wasn't until I left the house and kind of got into personal training that I started to understand what I knew. But a breakfast for me growing up was Fruity Pebbles. And I remember my mom would make hard-boiled eggs and she would get mad if I ate more than two because because she would have to make more. Like she hated the fact that she had to make more, not
Oh, yeah.
because she understood like the nutrient content of an egg versus cereal. All she saw
Yeah.
was hard and easy. And so I love it now when I go and talk to my kids and they like my protein shakes and so the fact that they even understand, they're like, Mom, what do the noodles do? And I'm like, that's energy. And they're like, what does the meat do? And I'm like, it builds muscle, that's protein. And so and then they're like, I'm gonna get big muscles, I want to eat my meat. And I'm just like, yes.
You're like, yes, it's
Like,
working.
yes, I'm just like, that is so exciting for me because that's something that I never understood or didn't have as a kid.
I'm gonna go kind of way off the deep end on a question here. It's
Yes.
similar. It, like how for you, right? It's just you and me talking here. How for you do you balance? Because yes, and I like that how you describe that in terms of like you know how your parents approach things and stuff like that makes a ton of sense, right? Based on like the time and what types of things they were exposed to knowledge wise or whatever the case is. Like now we live in a time where it's almost there's too much information
Yeah.
and then you've got to like choose what to filter down to your kids
Yeah.
and you're choose like how do you do that from the parenting side of like all this stuff that could come into your world, right? Whether it's on the interwebs or whatever. And then your kids ask you a question and you're like, okay, well, I saw this Instagram reel that explains that this like so how do
Yeah.
you approach that in terms of those conversations with them?
This is a really long one, so I'm going to try and like sum it up as best I can because when it comes to nutrition, I have found that everything is wrong and everything is right. And
Ain't that the
like, what
truth?
am I
That is
supposed to
completely
do
the
with that? What am I supposed to do with an article that says this is wrong, but then over here is an article that is like, this is very much right? So it's like, you just, at the end of the day, like, I just choose what works for me. And, and really that just kind of comes down to like the basic nutrients of stuff and keeping things in moderation. Now, when it comes to my kids, I don't flood them with that stuff. I just like so for example, I don't keep a lot of junk food at the house. I mean, I like the occasional junk food, so there is some, okay? But it's not like I have the staples I looked back at my life and was like, hey, what are the things that we eat consistently every day and how can I make those healthier? And so then I started slowly removing stuff so that the majority of the foods that we do eat are healthier. But if we go to a kid's birthday party, I'm not going to tell my kids that they can't have soda and cake. But
Mm.
I don't have soda and cake at the house. So when they ask, I'm like, we don't have soda every day because it's a lot of sugar to have at one time. But if you want to have it today for a party, that's totally cool. But it's not good to have every day. And so that's kind of how I try and keep it as minimal as possible because one, I'll make it halfway through that sentence before my kids are like, squirrel, and then they're off doing something else anyway. So it's like, what was the point of that? Like, I'm trying to teach you something, but clearly you don't give a fuck. So we'll try again at the next birthday party.
Where you're like, let me break out this whiteboard and diagram this for you. By the
Yeah.
time you freaking wheel it out, they're gone.
Yep.
They're off to the next thing.
That's it's not going to happen. And so that's what I try and teach them is like, yes, we can, like, this stuff is bad for you. You know, we can have it this one time but we don't have it all the time because it's not good. And that's pretty
It's,
much how we like preface those things.
it's simple, right? It starts to give them some like basic boundaries at whatever age they are. It's like, okay, that
Yeah.
like starts to make sense, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then they learn the importance probably of moderation in that extent, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's from time to time it's okay, but like on the regular, like it's not
Yep.
happening, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. No, that's great. And okay, now I want to kind of we started here, so now I want to spin back around to like how this whole CrossFit experience then spun into content creation. So when was the first time that you were like and I don't know, maybe did you like consciously think like I'm going to be a content creator, or did you just start posting stuff and it was like, "Oh, wait a second, people like this."
It
Like how did that start to come up?
definitely it definitely started, it was all fun for me at the end of the day because you almost can't go into being like, if you went into it as like, I want to be a content creator, you would quit 6 months in because you're like, wow, I have 200 followers 6 months in. This is not for me. Like, see you later. I don't care what some guy is telling you on TikTok. Like, if you go viral your first video, good for fucking you, but that's like not happening to the rest of us. Okay.
For the rest of us
So,
average people that would post for like 4 or 5 months at a time, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, I got a few
yeah.
likes on that one.
Yep. Yep. And so it started out like I started seeing it, and it was kind of when reels really started to take off, and that became like a thing. And so I would sit there and scrolling through Instagram, and I would see some of those reels, from like John Woolley and a handful of those other ones, and that was the content that I engaged with. And so then I would hear these audios from other reels that I would see, and I would constantly find myself going, that would be funny if you related that to CrossFit. This would be funny if you related that to CrossFit. And I found myself saying that so many times a day that it like bugged me to not create it. And so then it just turned into this way, like this creative outlet for me of like, I want to make that a CrossFit and I want to see if it's as funny as I think it is. And so then that's kind of how it all started. And I would make, just one a day, or I would try to create one piece of content every day to just see how it goes. And like I said, like the first year I was only at 1,000 people and I was just loving it. And I still love it to this day. Like it's still one of my favorite things to do. But then it really started to gain momentum and pick up. But still, like I have 50,000 followers. And if you were to tell me, like ask me what 50,000 people looked like, I couldn't tell you. Like, honest to God, I would not be able to know. Like, is that a football stadium? I don't know.
It's like a
Like,
baseball stadium. It's like a big baseball stadium. Like
that's a
most
lot.
football stadiums are probably like 80 to 100. Basketball arenas are probably like 20 to 30. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you're trying to think what would be the closest one. I mean, yeah, we're kind of in the same general part of the country, like the Phoenix, the
Yeah,
Arizona Diamondbacks.
yeah.
You could fill the Diamondback Stadium, probably with your followers. Isn't
See,
that weird? Isn't that
that
so
doesn't like
strange to think about
comprehend
that?
mentally. That is the weirdest thing ever. But yeah,
That's
yeah,
it's so it's just a random little. That's why it's like so funny when all of a sudden something will come into my Instagram feed and I'll be like, "Who in the world is this? I've never heard of this person." You go to their page and they've got like 3 million followers, and you're like,
yeah,
who are you?"
yeah. You're like, what on earth? How are you such a big deal?
Right. I'm like, that's a few football stadiums. Uh,
Yeah.
no, that's so. And so during that time frame when it's so first, how did you pick the name the Unfiltered Fit Mom? How did that handle come to life?
Um, yeah. So
Uh-oh.
I'm very unfiltered, but not like I curse, yes, but that's also not why I'm the unfiltered mom. Um, I say things before thinking about them 90% of the time. And so, like, just like amidst conversations, like, I will just throw stuff out there and it'll either land or I'll owe someone an apology. It's like one of those two things.
I know that sense of humor. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
kind of that person too, and it shows mostly when I'm coaching a class, and I'll coach, I'll like throw out a cue to the class, and I'll make some weird analogy, and there'll be like one person in the back of class that is losing it laughing, and everyone else
Yeah.
is looking at me like, "What did you just say?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Sorry, I'll move on. I'll move on now. Thank you."
Forget it. You had to know what I was talking about. It's fine.
It's like if you were there, it would have made a ton of sense.
Yep.
What is the what's the weirdest place now? So when did your content really like? Do you feel like it started to take off that you were like, oh goodness, there's something happening here? Like what? When did that start to happen?
I can't remember. It wasn't like a specific piece of content. It was like the momentum finally just like caught and then it stayed
Mm.
consistent for a while and I started to see like a huge jump in followers over the course of 6 months. Um and so and yeah, I think I went from like 1,000 to like 15,000 in the course of that 6 month period.
Yeah.
Um and I don't understand the algorithm at all. Honest to God. Like I have zero clue. Like I don't even know what it is really. And so when people are like, "Man, what do you do? And how do you like max your potential?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't do
You're like, make
anything.
funny stuff.
I don't dive into the analytics of any of it. Like I create it and I put it out there. And
Yeah.
that's it at the end of the day." Um, but there was one reel that I posted, I think it was the beginning of this last summer. And I have it pinned to my profile, the one where I'm like walking the stairs and it's like I'm talking about how I'm the fittest I've ever been and I'm being lapped by a mom.
Oh
That
yeah.
one, that one gained me 25,000 followers. Yeah. Yeah, like it that one was gnarly. It was the one video that I saw like the most amount of return and I think it has like 30 million views now.
It's a
But it
few
was
football stadiums.
yeah, and it took me and it's like that it didn't even take me that long to make. I just
Yeah.
had the idea, had my friend come and do it with me and posted it and was like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" Like this is weird. Like I
It
had
always
people
seems to
out
be
of high
those. Yeah. Go
school
ahead.
that I had not
Yeah.
talked to in 15 years that are like, "I saw your video." And I'm like, "Cool." So weird. Thanks.
It always seems to be those weird ones where you're like, ah, this is kind of an interesting idea. Let me throw that together real fast and just send it
Yeah.
out. And then you like, close the app. You come back like a few
Yeah.
hours later and you're like, what in the world is going on right now?
Yeah. Yep. That is my content strategy. I literally just put out what I want to put out and like hope it sends. And when it
Yeah.
does, cool. And when it doesn't, there's always tomorrow.
Right. You're like, yeah, I'll come up with another idea. But I think that's such a cool perspective too, that you were saying like it's a creative outlet, which it's like me putting words in your mouth. It's like I'm gonna make things that I think are funny, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
really hope that other people find it funny too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 1,000%.
Yeah. What's the weirdest place you've found yourself in or like group of people you've been around as a result of like the content side of things that you're just like you look around and you're like, how what? if you would have, like, if I would have told you 3 years ago that you would have been with X group of people, you're like, no way, no chance.
Um, so I would say I'm gonna like turn this question a tiny bit
Yeah.
and rephrase it of like instead of group of people, I'm gonna go back to the group of people because I do have something that I'm gonna say about that. But it's the opportunities that I was going to get
Mm,
from being a content creator. Like I had no idea that I would be given so many cool opportunities because I create content. And that all boils down to like I've been doing CrossFit for 8 years, but it wasn't until like 2024 that I was actually able to compete at some of these bigger competitions, and it was
mm,
because of my page and because I was growing and we were, got a little bit of sponsors to help us get to some of these bigger ones and stuff. And had I not had that, I would not have been able to experience all of those places. Like
yeah.
before that, I had only been on an airplane one time.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I know, I'm sheltered, okay? I'm very, very sheltered. And so and then after that I had flown at least 2 or 3 times a year after that, going to all of these cool CrossFit events and doing all of these things, and it all boiled down to the page that I had created. But there is this one particular part. I went to, and this was part of it. Relight hired me to hang out at their booth all day at World Fitness Project. That was like the pinnacle of my, I'm not going to call it a career because it's not. We're not making a bunch of money doing this, but I'm going to call it that. And then, and part of it was I got to stay with them at their Airbnb. And I don't have a ton of experience being around elite athletes, okay? And so they invited all of their athletes to dinner at our Airbnb. And I was trying so hard not to be like this the whole time. But I had that moment there too of like, I am sitting at a table with Fee Sagafi, Ariel Lowen, Dallin Pepper, Jason Hopper, and I'm just like, never in a million years did I think that like starting this little page was going to lead to me being at a table with all these elite athletes. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had because you hear the things that they talk about, and I've never had that firsthand experience before of knowing what life is like as an elite athlete, and it was
Mm,
so cool. I took so
yeah.
much of that home with me and was like, I'm pretty sure that fueled my workouts for like a month. I was like, that was so cool, man. I want to do that again as much as possible.
It's so funny. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying about like why, like the spin on why CrossFit is dangerous is like you've got this group of people around you.
Yes,
And it's
yes,
like, holy, all right, like, let's go. Like, we're all going to link arms and run through a wall together. Let's go.
yes, yes. That is the most dangerous thing ever in the world. It's like all it took was me sitting at a table with some elite athletes to go home and be like, we're fucking shit up this month, you know?
Oh, that is amazing. And
Yeah.
so we actually the affiliate where I coach, we had because we're in Phoenix, so the World Fitness Project, they came through Mesa for what, Tour Stop 2, I think it was.
Yeah. That
And
was the
so
one.
we were on their like activation. Oh, that was the one you went to?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, okay. So we were on the activation list. So I think it was Justin Medeiros, Dallin Pepper, and Manon Enganese.
Yeah.
And they came with like the rest of the crew or whatever. And it was so cool. It was one of those
Yeah.
experiences similar to you where it's like a few of us are just standing in the corner, like, oh my God, it's just Medeiros. Like, and so we're trying so hard not to fangirl. And like I was filming some stuff for the gym and he wore one of my microphones to like, and I was like, guys, Justin's got my mic on. It's one of those silly things where you're just sitting there and
Yep.
you're like, I kind of can't believe that this is happening right now. Like, this is really cool. So
Yeah.
it sounds like that for you.
Yep. Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
it went so much for, I'll tell you this experience just because it was so good and it was so funny. So Ariel Lowen is a relay athlete, and so she came to the relay booth to, do some meet and greets and stuff. And the meet and greet was really slow. There was, the whole vendor village, there was nobody in there. And I think Rad was having like a drop somewhere else at that exact same time. And so everyone was like going to get their shoes or whatever. But Relight had these beanbag chairs that were like cheap Walmart beanbag chairs. Okay. We all sat in it once a week, like, and like fell backwards because it was just like not a good chair. And so Ariel comes over and she goes to sit down in the beanbag chair. And she like loses her balance and falls. And instinctively, I grabbed her legs and like to prevent her from falling. And as I grabbed her legs, I was like, oh my God, I am grabbing Ariel Lowen's legs. And I look over at the Relight people and I'm just like, can somebody take a picture? I've
Just stay
never
there for
felt,
like a second.
oh my God, I've never felt so much muscle in my hands before in my life. And she like gets up and looks at me and I'm like, so glad you're okay.
You're like, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you need help with anything else?
Yep, yep.
Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
And again, like you said, those are those moments that you're probably in there and you're like three, however many years ago or whatever, right? When you're first walking in for your first CrossFit class.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
somebody, you go in a time machine, you're like, hey, 7 years from now, or however long it's been, right? You're going to be sitting with some of the best athletes in the world having dinner and just hearing them tell stories.
Yeah, yeah. And that was so cool. And who knows, like, how or where that's going to go in the future. But, like, I want to recreate those moments as many times as possible. It's so
Right.
fun.
Yeah. And so, thinking about that and thinking about the type of content that you create, right? If you had a message that you could send like to your large baseball stadium size following, right? I feel like that's just a funny way to frame it now.
Yeah.
What is the message that you're trying to send to the people that engage with your content or that continue to kind of follow along with what you're building?
Um, I think for me, like, I'm not an elite athlete, and I don't want to say I'm never going to be because I would like to go to the games, but that's going to be when I'm like 65. Okay. So I don't want to say that I'm never going to be an elite athlete. I'm going to have my moment. It's just like 30 years from now.
It's cooking. We're building. We're building.
We're working up. All I have to do is maintain for 30 years. That's all I have to do.
Like
But
once all of you start to come on the downhill, then you're in trouble.
yep. Yep. All of you motivated individuals, you have to fall off at some point. And when you do, I'm going to be there. Okay.
I'm gonna be there. I smell blood, and I'm going for it.
But I think the main thing that I would like to say is I compete for the sole purpose of that I learn something new about myself every single time I do a competition. And one of those things that I learned about myself was I told myself that I was never going to doubt myself again. I was never going to tell myself that I wasn't capable of doing something. Um, and so I would want to tell those people those exact same things of like, if you're going to compete, like do it and create the best experience ever because you have no idea what the future is going to look like for you. This could be the last time you look this way. This could be the last time you're this weak. This could be the last time you're this strong. Like you just never know. And I want to encourage people to go out and live their life and live it fully without standing in their own way, without telling themselves that they can't do something, without saying that they're not good enough or that they don't deserve it or who are they to want to do that. Like go out, whatever that is for you, whatever your games moment is. I'm gonna say that. Whatever your games moment is, like go and chase that and go and do it with your whole heart. Like that's what I want for people.
That's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. I feel like that's like yeah. That also there was something you mentioned. I'm not gonna remember it exactly. So maybe you'll remember it too. There was something like what was the lesson you said earlier that you took away from wrestling?
Oh, that was the hardest thing physically I would ever do in this lifetime.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really true now. I've done Fran enough times to know that like wrestling probably wasn't it, but it was really fucking close. It was really close.
But I mean, between, the even tying back to that story, the belief you had in yourself to jump into wrestling at that time when you saw
Yeah.
there was an opening and like there was nobody else like you on the team, right? We're like, well, I think I could beat some kids up, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like there was that belief, and then even starting the content side of things, you're like, well, I'm gonna try this. I want to see this come to light. I want to see this come to
Yeah.
fruition, even if it was just for yourself.
Yeah.
And now you kind of building that up through CrossFit and through your own training and the competing that you do is like building that confidence of being able to go out and do your thing unapologetically
Yep.
is almost like,
Yep.
the way I'm hearing it, right?
Yep.
How does that then play into or tie into, like, I know you've got the Unfiltered Fit clothing company, right? I think I got the name right on
Yes.
that. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So, in terms of like how people can support you along the way, you've got that. Obviously, you've got the Instagram page and things like that, right? How does that message play into the clothing you're creating and the designs you come up with?
Yeah, and that's all the same. And even that boils back to the same concept of the wrestling experience and joining CrossFit. Like I am going to make Unfiltered Clothing Co. matter and be something to people. And I don't care if it takes another year. I don't care if it takes 5 years. It's going to happen. And I'm going to keep pushing it to a point where it does. But I started Unfiltered with the idea that it was going to help support me get to these competitions. But it didn't take long for me to sit back and be like, at some point in the future, I want Unfiltered Clothing Co. to be the reason that another athlete gets to where they want to be. And so it's still slow going. I was hoping to have sponsored an athlete this year, but being a business owner and a mom, it's going a little bit slower than I wanted it to, but I'm not stressing about it. Like I know that moment is coming for me. I already have an athlete picked out that I really can't wait to work with. And so it's just a matter of time. And like I can taste it and it's so close and I'm so excited, but that's what I really want for this company is I want it to support other people and get them to where they want to go to because I've done it for me and it's worked. And so I know I can do it for other people too.
It's
But
amazing.
yeah, but that is what unfiltered clothing is. It's all about like I have a few funny CrossFit related shirts like how to not be a rep shaver. You do all the reps. Like world's fittest cherry picker. I have a shirt that says that. Like but then I have the other inspirational ones that all have a backstory to them of why I love them so much. Like
Is there
pressure is
one
a
that comes to
privilege.
mind? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
pressure is a privilege. And if you aren't busy living, you're slowly dying. Like
Ooh.
live on purpose. Like a lot of these that like really hit home that growing up, you kind of are just like in this cycle of life. And if you don't actually take the time to live your life, regardless of what that looks like. Because I know some people immediately are like, oh, I don't have the money to live my life. Okay, well, if you're going to let that be the factor of your happiness, then you're not going to be happy for a long time. But if you can figure out ways to live an amazing and purposeful life that don't cost anything, like you're on the right track to living a life that you are super happy and excited about, that's going to fuel you into the next phase of life that you're going to be ready for. There's a lot there that like, and we could talk about that forever. But that's also like the guts of what Unfiltered is is it's a brand that wants like that when people are wearing my stuff, I want them to feel like they have someone cheering for them in their corner if they don't have anybody else. Like if I had one goal for Unfiltered, that's what it would be like. Is for someone to feel inspired by my shirt, wear it, and give a little bit more effort because they have it. If that happens,
So
that's a win.
cool.
Yeah, total win.
And, yeah, I'm gonna. I'll take this the deeper direction that you were thinking we were gonna go. We're gonna go for it. Why not? Let's just sink into it, right? If you took, you know, let's boil it down this way. I did this with somebody else recently. What are the top three things if you had to somehow boil it down to three, right? Like three things that you have benefited from being engaged in CrossFit for as long as you have.
Oh God. Okay, top three things.
Top three. I know it's a long list.
It
I'm forcing
is.
you to narrow it. I'm forcing you to narrow it down to three, but it's
Um, okay. First and foremost, like mental health at the top of it, like number one. CrossFit has become something for me that if I don't get in a day, it drastically changes my how I feel about things just daily. It's that stress relief that I need to come home and be the best mom that I can be. So mental health, first of all. Second, CrossFit has taught me what consistency is and what it can do. So when other parts of my life come, and I'm struggling with something, I have that like blueprint to be like, okay, I have seen what showing up every single day for for a little bit of time over the course of X amount of days can do. So I know it's going to work for this. And that was huge for me too, because diving off into like a tiny rabbit hole for a second, I feel like a lot of people want immediate results, and that's not what happens. And so when you go to CrossFit and you put in those little steps and you've seen how much you've changed over a period of time, you look at that in every other aspect of your life and you're just like, it goes from a question to it's going to happen, it's just a matter of when. And that was huge for me. Um there's probably so many more, but like experiences and connections with people are one of my favorite things too. And I always had that community aspect at home, but when I started growing my page, I found that I have that online too. I didn't even know that was a possibility to have this. It's not the same, but it's really close. That same community vibe I have online or that I have at home, I have online too. And then to go and then take that and go to a competition and find that same community literally anywhere in the world is insane to me.
oh
And so
yeah.
that was also so cool that I could go anywhere. And as long as there's a CrossFit gym, like I'm gonna find a good group of people that like are gonna be there, Like that was also cool for me to experience. So
That's and I'll come back around to the question I asked. That last one I want to hit on because like that experience of like if you go anywhere in the world and you find a CrossFit affiliate, like those are your people. For
yeah.
you, that's slightly different because of scale, right? Like
Yeah.
people know your face when you walk in,
Yes.
right? Which isn't
Yes.
necessarily the truth for like everybody, but that
Yes.
doesn't mean that that same experience isn't possible because you're like, oh, I know what's going on in here. I know what these people are about, right? It's got the
Yep.
they're flying the flag on the front, right? With that
Yep.
big name that says CrossFit, and it's like you know what's going on there, right? And
Yep.
you can have that experience wherever you go. Um, but and those are incredible things too, right? Those three you mentioned, and I'm sure the list is way longer. Um, if you took those three things and then give those benefits to anybody new that tries CrossFit, and we double the amount of people in the world doing CrossFit, how different does our world look? Not to not to go super way off the rail. Yeah, I know you're like, are we unfiltered? How
I
unfiltered are
I
we?
had a hard time comprehending 50,000 people, and now we're talking about the entire world.
Talk about that
Um,
scale, right?
yeah, I all it takes is seeing the change that it makes in one person's life to realize that everyone in the world could benefit from it. And I say this all the time, CrossFit is for everyone in the fact that literally anybody can do it. I think people get confused when they see CrossFit as the sport and they think that all CrossFit is that when it's not. There is CrossFit the sport and then there is what is probably, I don't want to throw out a percentage because I don't know. I'm a dumb person talking about this, but I know the percentage of like affiliates that are just for everyday training is drastically bigger than those that compete in CrossFit as a sport. And they're two very, very, very different things. And I think that's where people get confused. And I wish that they wouldn't, because when you look in at CrossFit as the sport, it's really like congratulations to the people that that was their first experience and chose in anyway, because that's a lot to take in. But when you see CrossFit as the everyday way to get healthy and move better, and that they're not finding the fittest person in the world in the home gym, it's crazy. I don't even know how to describe that, but it would help people feel so much more comfortable if they saw that side of it first rather than the sports side of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%, right? Because that's the it's and I'm one of those that the games was my first experience really seeing it. And then, that's a whole separate story about how I got into
Yeah.
it from there. But that was my first experience. And I saw it, I'm like, that's not like in a cool way,
Yeah.
right? I played sports in
Yes.
college and stuff. So I'm like, that's wild. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
But that can also be very intimidating, right? Somebody sees, especially the athletes these days, right? Like the capacity that they're able to do is absolutely unbelievable, right? And showing that other side of it is what can help show people like this is what it means to us everyday folk,
Yeah.
us, mere mortals, so to speak, right?
Yep.
But yeah, and I love that the way that you're approaching the clothing company is trying to give people that extra boost to like stay in it, keep
Yep.
coming back, keep going for it, right? Because
Yep.
then that cascades out to whoever those people are connected to too. And next thing you
Yes.
know, right, it's starting to bring
Yes.
more people into the fold, right?
Yep.
Which, hey, again, everybody gets better, right? If we
Yep.
get more people in here, right? Um, okay, I got one last question for you. And before I
Oh,
ask, first off, thank you for sharing your story, for sharing all this stuff. It's been super super cool, hearing how this built up to this point. So thank you, and I appreciate all the openness around it, right, and what you've been through and how you get here. The unfilteredness. I feel like that's probably the most appropriate way to say it, right?
yep. It
Um,
is. Yeah.
so if I put you in a time machine and sent you back to the version of you that was personal training, kind of doing bodybuilding training, you had this kind of preconception about what CrossFit was at that time, right? Kipping pull-ups aren't real pull-ups, that
Yeah.
that phrasing. And you got a few minutes now with all of the experience that you've had in CrossFit, not just the training side, but the content side and the people you've been able to interact with and everything like that. And you got a few minutes to talk to that younger version of yourself about what CrossFit really is. And they're thinking of, the younger you is thinking about trying it, but not really sure. What would be your message to that younger version of you? Uh-oh.
I don't want to say it because
It's
I
just
feel
you and
like,
me talking here, remember?
yeah, and then it's going to be the internet in like 7 days. But like it, as soon as you said that, it immediately like comes back to, if you would have found CrossFit sooner, you totally would have made it to the games. Like that's the first thing that comes to my head, because I can't lie to you. I'll do like I'll repeat an open workout that like Annie Thorstadter did in 2010, and I'm like, man, if I was competing against 2010 or Annie Thorstadter, I would have kicked her ass, like smoked her up and down. But we're not, okay?
This is for sure getting clipped, and I'm tagging for 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So no, but if I would go back, first of all, I don't even know if I would listen. I was in my like early 20s, and I pretty much was like, I know everything. So even future me isn't going to come and tell me what I already know. Um, but if I went back and said like anything, I would like to know that I have a bigger influence than I thought I was ever going to. And I want to use that influence for to inspire people and to tell people that like you're the only one that's holding yourself back, really. And so I would just tell myself that exact message of like, get out of your own way. Like you have a lot of potential that you don't see, and you're not going to see it if you don't like let the hammer down and be okay to fail a little bit, to look a little silly, to eat shit on a sandbag. I've done that so many times, you know. but that it would be that like step out of your own way and let yourself like go for the things that you want to go for.
So like
Yeah.
there's a t-shirt in there. There's probably one more
Probably.
t-shirt in
There's
that case
always
though.
a fucking t-shirt. I get talking with people and like I don't mean to make it weird, but then since I like pull out my notes and I'm just like, that's a t-shirt.
It's a t-shirt. Yeah. I have
Yep.
that same
Putting
thing.
that in the
I've got a
pile.
growing list of t-shirt ideas that'll eventually get made.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great way to kind of tie a bow on this conversation. Thank you again for one, agreeing to come on. And then two, like I was saying before, just being open about your experience, how it's benefited you, and how all the things have come to play. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Anytime.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for asking me because I love I'm gonna call it I love sharing my story. But I love talking about what CrossFit has done for me and how it has totally changed my life because it's not just a workout like so many people from the outside looking in see it as. And it's a community and it's family and it's pushing yourself and it's learning all these new things about yourself. And so even if one person takes this podcast that is listening right now and is inspired to do something different based off of any of the stuff that we've talked about, like that is what I want. And so I was super happy to come on, because that's kind of how I look at life of and experiences of, this might be the only interaction we have. I hope not. You seem like a great guy. But I couldn't say no because I was like, who knows what could come from this? And who knows, like, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm saying though? Like, I want to say yes to every opportunity possible because you never know where that opportunity will go.
There's so I played baseball growing up. Do you know
Oh,
Joe
cool.
DiMaggio, like the old, Yankees player?
Nope.
Do you reckon? No. Okay.
Nope.
So, what he played back in like the 40s and 50s, right? One of the best players of all time. No big deal. It was just
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
But so there was some game. It was like some random game. They were either already winning by a bunch or already losing by a bunch. And he like hit a ground ball. He was going to be out, and he like sprinted, ran it out to first, even though he was out or whatever. And someone asked him later, like, "Hey, why'd you do that? Like the game was already kind of decided, whatever." And the extent of his answer was something along the lines of like, for there might be somebody in the stands that's the first time they're coming to watch me play, or that might be the only time they come watch me play, and I
Yeah.
don't want their lasting memory of me to be me, lazily running it out because it was already decided. I want them to see me
Yeah.
giving 100% every time, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's right in line with what you were just saying, right? It's
Yep.
like, do it because you never know. Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm getting like chills thinking about it. It's like you never know who's like somebody, not to be super dramatic or whatever, but like somebody might hear this and decide, you know what, I'm gonna go try CrossFit for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because,
that's
and this all boiled down from a Christmas movie on Netflix, okay? And we're talking a kid's Christmas movie. Have you ever seen Klaus?
I don't think so.
Oh my God. Okay, you're
I don't
missing
think
out.
that's not that one's not on our kids' radar yet.
Oh
We're still
my
on like
God, you
Nightmare
need to
Before
watch
Christmas.
it. You need to watch it immediately. But
Okay.
it's essentially how like Santa Claus came about. And there is one line in that movie that like stuck with me forever, and it ties back into this. And Klaus says, "One small, simple act of kindness instantly sparks another." And like when I sit back and think about that, it is so true. Like, and that ripple might be really small, but then you could also do that to someone else and have that ripple be really, really big. And so I love the idea of thinking of doing stuff like this. And I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know who's listening, and I don't know their life or whatever, but who knows like what this conversation could do for someone else, or that it was something that they really needed to hear today. And that just grows, like, and it gets out and it puts it out into the world and it changes things. And I love that.
The
Yeah.
cool thing
And
is, like,
so
we may never know what the impact
I,
is.
I
And that's
know.
not the point. Like,
It's
that's not
okay.
the point, is to know, right? But because
Yeah.
because the opportunity is there, why not give it the best shot
Yep.
we've got?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Oh my
So
gosh.
true.
Okay, I'm ready.
I
I'm ready
know.
to run through a brick wall. Are you? Because I
We
am.
should do this again.
I'll bring you back. We'll come back. We'll just keep this a recurring thing. This was awesome. Thank you again. Even though we said, we're gonna wrap it up like 10 minutes ago, but I feel like that last little side
I know.
now that gave me
Sorry.
the boost.
I'll let
No,
it
not at all.
end
Are you kidding
now.
me?
I'll let it end now.
All right. Thank you again. Thank you,
You're
everybody.
welcome.
Thank you, Shaylee. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with a friend. To get notified of future episodes, please follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you can continue to hear these stories. For more behind-the-scenes content of everyday CrossFitters, follow on YouTube and Instagram at Silverback Media. Until next time, this has been the Silverback Media Podcast.